Hello and welcome to the Full Scale Podcast. We are very glad to have you here. This is our first episode in a series of many episodes, and today we just hope to introduce ourselves to you, provide you with a little bit of an outline of what we will be doing and what you can expect from us, and hopefully you can we hope to provide you with a lot of content that will be useful to you and that you will appreciate. So my name is Timothy Mukiti. I'm joined by my friend and colleague here, Adrian Ntwatwa, and we are very excited to have you here. So maybe Adrian, you could tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Adrian?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny, that's such a big question these days, right? So I'm Adrian Ntwatwa. What I do is I'm a corporate lawyer. That's sort of, I guess, a lot of the reason why we're here. So I did my training in New York at Columbia Law School. I'm a New York State licensed attorney. After passing the bar, I worked in New York for about 4 years doing fund formation work, which is setting up, forming and structuring private equity funds. And then after that, I moved to Nairobi. So I did that for about 4 years. And then I moved to Nairobi 2019. That's when Tim and I became friends.
Yeah.
That's when we sparked up a really good friendship.
5 years.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Should have an anniversary something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I've been here for 5 years. Though during that time, most of it was doing more M&A work. So I retooled as a lawyer to focus more on the deployment of capital as opposed to the raising and structuring of it. So I worked together with Tim at a prominent law firm here in Nairobi. And then since leaving that, I've sort of been out on my own, sort of freelancing, trying to see where I land and where the value that I have and how far it can take me, which has been a really cool journey. So I'm now a legal consultant. I consult for different clients sort of on a freelance basis. One of whom is a sort of leading legal tech AI company based in the US. So that's what I do, who I am, what I'm about, what I'm passionate about. I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a friend, colleague, ex-colleague. But also I'm passionate about Africa as a continent. I'm very bullish about this continent and the promise that it has and fulfilling that potential, which I think a big part of this podcast is about that. I'm also an avid Arsenal fan, as Tim knows, for better or for worse.
Makes two of us.
Very good past season, and this season going really well. Big game tomorrow, but anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Let's not jinx it, yeah?
Yeah, I know. And I've started playing golf recently, so that's something Tim and I also share. So when we're not here, we're on the golf course. We're
getting
working.
Frustrated sometimes.
I'll ask you what your handicap is later in the show.
Okay.
But that's sort of who I am. I have a lot of other things that I'm interested in, but I'm sure we'll get to them as we go through the episodes since we're here for a while. So what about you, Tim? Who are you? What are you about?
You should have told me you'll throw the question back at me. But my name is Timothy Mukiti. I'm a corporate lawyer as well as a tax lawyer. Like Adrian has already told you, we met at one of the prominent law firms where we were working. Both of us were working back in 2019, and since then we've become really good friends. I do corporate law, that is mergers and acquisitions, private equity investments, venture capital, and even investments already before venture capital stage. That is seed capital, angel investments, and even investments by high net worth individuals. I left the firm that I was working on just beginning of the year, and I am a founding partner of a boutique law firm that desires to provide legal advisory services, a broad array of legal advisory services. I wouldn't want to discuss that here, but of course, in due course, I will let people know a little bit more about that. I'm equally a father, to a husband and a father to one young boy, whom I love a lot. He's
beautiful baby boy.
He's the most entertaining fella in this world. It's very beautiful seeing him grow. And like Adrian has already said, I'm an Arsenal fan.
Team Kubwa.
Team Kubwa, yes, Team Kubwa. And hopefully we remain Team Kubwa for a long while. I mean, we've gone through some really difficult years in the recent past.
Just trust the project.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying what is happening at the moment. I'm really enjoying it, honestly. It's very beautiful, and I hope we keep the momentum. Yeah, I enjoy playing golf. And actually, I do enjoy what we call personal effort sports and activities. I enjoy playing golf. I also enjoy running marathons and cycling. Yeah, so that's just about it for me, and I guess our audience will get to know us a little bit more as we engage. So
you're the only person I know who goes from playing a full 18 and then goes and runs a half marathon. I don't know how you do it or how you did it. There's actually that day you did it and you actually won, right?
Yes. I actually participated in the charity marathon, and I think we had played the previous day, which was on Saturday.
And we had gone out that night
and we went out, we were skating at night, and we went to bed at about 3. We left each other at about 3, and somehow, in the morning at about 8, I was running a marathon, and I ran. I had signed up for 10 kilometers, and I ran 10 kilometers, and I won. It was quite amazing because it was actually beautiful.
Better you than me. I could never.
You could never. One of these fine days we need to play a whole 36 holes and then do something more. After that. But it's interesting. So Adrian, by the way, I recall that really the first time we had this conversation, about starting the podcast, what we would want to do, we had a brief discussion. And that was, I think, at the period leading up to your wedding. It was a couple of months ago, when we started that conversation. And then we met formally and had a more in detail discussion. That's about 1 year and a half ago. And finally, we are here. This is the first episode after so many discussions, so many considerations. What does this make you feel? What do you think about this? The beginning of this journey.
It's exciting. It feels like the beginning of something big. I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things we've been thinking about, talking about, but just going and doing the thing, I think, is a huge milestone. A lot of times things get caught up in preparation, purgatory, right? It's like, will I ever be ready? Will I have all the things ready? And, we keep trying to do that and be 100% prepared. But I think in many cases, you can never be 100% prepared, right? It's the action that gets you prepared. You go, you do it, you learn from it, you fail. You fail fast, you adapt, you learn from it, and you move forward.
Exactly.
So in many ways, that's what we're doing. So
hopefully we won't fail. We will learn, of course.
Even if we do, we'll keep moving forward. I think that's really the key lesson from it. So I'm pretty excited. Very, very excited, honestly. And I'm also on like 2 cups of coffee, so I'm like wired right now. So
at least I'm on one.
That's my state of mind right now. So I mean, I'd also ask you sort of how you're feeling at the moment, but also if you could delve into like, what are we doing here? What is this? What is Full Scale? What is this podcast? And, why is this important to you? Why are we here?
Yeah. Actually, that's a good question. And I think I could begin with why we are here. And then perhaps I could discuss something a little bit about the name.
Okay.
So, like you've mentioned, there's a lot of growth potential in Africa.
Yeah.
And a lot of growth potential comes from the possibility that we can have brilliant ideas that finally grow into something that not only solves local needs and sort of takes care of the current pressing needs that we have as African population, but equally also provides an opportunity for the economies to grow. And for that to happen, we need to be able to nurture and even finance these brilliant ideas that a lot of younger people, or even, because it's not even a young people thing anyway, a lot of people have ability to come up with splendid ideas that revolutionize how we do a lot of things.
Yeah.
A good example, of homegrown ideas and concepts that have actually had a huge impact in the economies that this is done include, ideas like M-Pesa, ability to transfer money through a mobile phone text. When this started, it was quite a strange idea to a lot of people, and it has taken, it has gotten a life of its own. It's grown quite big, and it's very critical to what happens in Kenya. It facilitates a lot of transactions. It's even helped us become a more cashless economy. And there are so many other such ideas that could be groundbreaking, that could take the continent so many steps ahead. So the purpose of this podcast is to sort of discuss and have conversations around how best we can champion or even challenge the whole idea about startups, how they get financing, how they get ability to scale up to become huge businesses. And we will be discussing a broad array of things in this podcast, including issues such as regulatory compliance. When you start a startup, what you need to do in order to thrive. What are the challenges that you could have in terms of things like regulatory compliance. We will be discussing things like how to form even, what kind of structures do you put in place. We will be inviting experts. And I'm sure you'll talk a little bit more about that, about how we will how we plan to structure this podcast going forward. But by and large, we want to be having useful conversations around that space about tech, AI, the things that really matter to the African continent and how this can grow. Going to the reason why the name really, and I think it's a very interesting name. Well, it's full scale because we don't plan to do anything half-heartedly here.
No half measures.
No half measures at all. So we will be going full scale really in terms of delving into this space, discussing all these things that affect ability to grow in the economy, ability to turn around and to make an impact, in economy, both in the lives of people and also in things that matter. But not only that, the term scaling up is a term that is very popular within the startup space. From the moment you start an idea, you grow it up, you scale up, to be able to reach more people, to be able to do more. So we're not only not doing anything half-heartedly, but we are also championing the full scale up of startups and businesses and all that space. So we're going full scale. Full scale for what we're doing and full scale for the businesses and for the entrepreneurs, for the startups, for the founders, for the financiers, the funds that actually put in money to businesses to enable them to scale up, and various opportunities around that space. So
Awesome.
that's it by and large. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's the soundbite I needed. Full scale.
Yeah.
We're going full scale from beginning to end.
Yes.
We're taking people through the value chain.
Exactly.
So it sounds to me like unlocking value is really a huge part of this podcast. So specifically, I guess, if you look across the spectrum of stakeholders, right? If you're an investor, what are the businesses you should be looking at? Or if you're already looking at businesses, what are the things that you should be considering? So, I mean, we're both lawyers, so obviously there will be a lot of a legal lens that will apply to some of these things. But I think our goal is to make this as accessible as possible to people, whether you're a lawyer or not. So especially within the investor landscape, what should you be thinking about? How can you achieve an exit? How can you make sure that you're vetting the companies correctly, specifically within this context? Because I think there are nuances to this market. So I think that's a cool one from an investor perspective. I think from an entrepreneurial perspective, funding is a huge thing. But also, before you even start funding, how do you get started? How do you form your company? How do you get to your MVP, your minimum viable product, right? How do you test your market? Make sure that you have a good product market fit. Then if you do have all those things, how do you now grow your company and scale it, right? Fully, all the way across. I mean, I think it's a big issue, specifically on the continent. Scaling across countries there's a huge fragmentation issue. Every regulator is doing things differently in a different country. So an idea that works in Nairobi might not exactly work the same way in Kampala or in Kigali, right? So figuring out those, avoiding those issues as you go through. And then other stakeholders in sort of this space, right? So other lawyers, hopefully you guys tune in, and this isn't, it's not another meeting that you could have that could have been an email. So hopefully that sort of comes across. So other lawyers, I think, would find value in this type of platform. accountants, people in the space, service providers who work adjacent or in the industry, I think will get a lot of value out of it. And, anyone who sort of sees this and is like, wow, this thumbnail looks interesting. What are these guys talking about? So you're the ones we really want on here. Someone who's curious and just wants to learn something new. So I think that's really cool. And you mentioned that I'd sort of talk about the format and interviews and such. So I think most of what we're going to be doing is it's just going to be the two of us. So if you tune in, most of the time it's just going to be me and Tim having a conversation about things that we think are really important in this space. But occasionally we'll have guests. We'll have people that we consider thought leaders in their space, titans of their industry, people who really know what they're talking about, because we don't know everything. And we're also here to learn. I think this is as much a learning process for us as it is for our viewers and listeners. So I think getting people in the room who can speak from a position of real authority on some of these topics would be really a good service for a good value add for our viewers and listeners. And you can expect us once a week. We'll be coming to you every Tuesday. So that's as much for you to know what to expect from us, as well as to hold ourselves accountable. So we don't stop after episode 4.
Exactly.
We've heard after episode 4, there's like a bit of people tend to say, this thing, quite
run out
me,
of
I don't
energy.
know. So I think that's sort of, did I answer your question? Is there anything I left out?
You actually did well. You actually addressed the question very well. And the thing is, we give you a promise that we will be providing you with very useful content, hopefully every once a week and every Tuesday. So we'll be working hard to bring you useful content around the theme that we've already discussed. We will be having legal discussions occasionally around what legal issues or what issues affect the startup space, the private equity space, venture capital space, basically scaling up of a business. And we'll also be having discussions around financial issues like valuations, what matrices are applying in Africa, in East Africa, what are the nuances, and terms like EBITDA might be floating in this podcast every once in a while. But and we will even like Adrian has mentioned, we will bring in industry experts, people who are well versed in these things. Maybe people play in the private equity space who have made a couple of successful investments in Africa and East Africa.
And exits.
Exactly. And exits. People who have also done venture capital investments and successfully. We'll even be having companies that have been able to scale up, the leaders and founders who have been able to scale up their businesses over time. But it's important to let our audience know that despite the fact that we will have financial discussions, legal discussions, and even discussions around impact and ESG, please, this is not legal advice. It's neither financial advice nor any form of advice. So if you have specific issues that also affect your business, maybe it would be help to also consult an expert on the specific items. So we wouldn't want somebody quoting saying that's Tim and Adrian told us to value.
No, this is not legal advice, guys. We will put that at the bottom of the screen. Exactly. Not legal advice. Not huge legal disclaimer. Advice. We don't want to get in trouble. Awesome. So I think that sort of sets the stage. I think we've sort of communicated what our values are, what it is that we're hoping to accomplish. I think we've sort of communicated that we do believe that startups and businesses are really the way that we're going to change this continent or move it forward and help it sort of reach the potential that we see in it. So I guess just to segue now, Tim, segment. So generally, today's podcast is mostly just to introduce ourselves, give you the who, what, why, where, that type of thing. But we will have some segments that we have on a routine basis, or something that you can expect as we go through the show. One of those, we'll sort of just be asking each other something interesting that we learned this week. So, Tim, is there anything interesting that you've learned this week? I mean, it could be within the space that we're talking about, could just be something life-oriented, whatever it is. Anything that stood out to you that might be of interest?
Actually, there's an important life lesson I learned this past week.
Okay.
There's something called Black Swan events, and a Black Swan event is an event that is that is disruptive, that is shocking when it happens. But which in hindsight, when you look at it from hindsight, you should have been more prepared for it. You should have made better arrangements. You should have been ready for it. And there are a lot of things that we do that potentially could create openings for Black Swan events, and a Black Swan event is very punitive, when it happens. But the thing is, when you look back at it, you're like, I should have seen this coming, or I should have known better. And actually, one Black Swan event happened to me. I was driving in Nairobi, in Westland specifically.
Okay.
Nairobi has been very hot of late.
Yeah,
and I didn't want to have the AC in the car on, so I lowered my windows. And at a traffic stop, I thought, let me respond to a few texts that were, that had come to me. And just as I was drafting a text, a guy just comes and grabs my phone, and disappears, And it was shocking, I was like, wow, that's pretty quick. And the phone is gone.
Wow.
But looking back, I was thinking, it's not that I shouldn't have anticipated. I should have known that can happen.
Yeah.
I should have kept my windows rolled up or not used my phone really in the traffic, traffic stop. The cars was on a standstill really. It's and that also sort of prompted me to look around other things that I'm doing in my life, like do I have proper insurance for things that I should insure? Because you don't want such surprises, because looking back, really, it could have been avoided.
Yeah.
But then it's
he or she shouldn't have stolen it to begin with. Yes.
Yes. But my lesson is really to avoid Black Swan. And I think it even applies to businesses.
Yeah.
Really. There are a lot of things that can happen in businesses that can actually take them down. And which if you have when you look back at how the events unfolded, you might think that the business should have been better prepared.
Yeah.
Maybe there could be regulatory compliance issues that could be very damning. It could be, structures. It could be what value proposition of the business is. And when you look back at how those things unfold, then you almost think, I should have known better. If you only had done this step 1 and 2 better, then this event would not have happened. Anyway, it's a lesson that I picked. Yeah. And trust me, I'm looking around my life a lot more carefully now. I'm looking at, what basically I'm just asking myself, is there anything that could be a Black Swan event?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very sorry to hear that, man.
My learning point.
Oh no, I'm sorry that we've gained that value at your expense.
At the expense of a very expensive phone, by the way. And now phones are actually so expensive because of the dollar,
especially Kenya shillings.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's really a tough one. I just wish the person had let you finish the text first.
Exactly. And like, okay, guy, wait, let me finish my text, and then you can go away.
No one's waiting around for that. Yeah. So I guess, Black Swan events and being prepared for them. Exactly. I think maybe COVID, I don't know how we'd sort of position that one within that discussion, but maybe it's something that folks could have been better prepared for.
Yeah.
To the extent you were, that's something that you could have taken advantage of instead of actually having to, try and figure out how to get through it. So, I mean, I guess a good lesson there for me as well. Gotta make sure my windows are always rolled up, AC fully blasting.
Yeah, fully blasting, man. Yeah.
Okay. So something cool that I learned this week.
Yeah.
There's a company, it's a Swedish company called Klarna.
Klarna,
Klarna's focus is it's buy now, pay later, right? I think that's sort of their main business line. They have other business functions, I think payment solutions, things like that. But their main one, the thing that sort of put them on the map was you can make a big purchase, so like a new phone, and you can actually finance that. So you can buy it, you get it immediately, and then you start paying it down through that company.
Oh, really?
So that's a service that they offer. I don't know if they service this market, but it could be a cool idea for anyone watching that. That might be something to venture into. So Klarna, I guess a big component of their business is customer service. So a lot of the time they'll have a lot of customers calling in with questions, trying to understand the business model, trying to figure things out, right? So that's a huge time suck for them is just dealing with customer calls. So they have recently deployed this AI chatbot within their business. And I just want to make sure I get these numbers right.
Yeah.
So this AI chatbot it now does 2/3 of their customer support is
Yeah.
now handled through this AI chatbot. So it's sort of like, I guess you'd think of your chat GPT
Yeah.
or your other large language model where you talk to it almost as if it's a human being in
Yes.
natural language.
Uh-huh.
Customers are getting issues resolved in 1/5 of the time.
Ooh, that's impressive.
Previously, the volume of this work was done by 700 agents, 700 people. So this is so far, at least, I mean,
Yeah.
as of the day of recording, this is
Yeah.
the biggest return on investment we've seen through AI.
Yeah.
And they say it's estimated it will drive about $40 million in profit this year alone. And they've only had this running for 1 month, which is really
that's
something
quite
interesting,
impressive.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it goes to the heart of, I mean, I'm a person who's unabashedly convinced that AI is sort of the future. I think this is where we're at. Whether or not you agree or whether you think it's good or bad, I think it's here with us, right? It's in the room. It's like, is the AI in the room with us? It's here now. And I think it's something we need to embrace and understand most of all. I think so everyone sort of needs to get ahead of the curve. I think of it mostly like the .com era and, internet's coming up. The guys who moved really quickly and understood the technology and were able to build on that, I think are the ones who won the most in the past 2-3 decades. And we may think this is something that's still far away, like it's in the West, it's in Sweden, it's in whatever. But a few weeks ago, I was at the Africa Tech Summit here in Nairobi, and I was introduced to a startup that's based in Kigali. Their whole business model is they provide customer service solutions. So if you're, say, a huge telco in Kigali, and you have all these customers in rural Kigali that they only speak Kinyarwanda or some other local language, and you want to get to them, you want to understand what are the issues they're facing, how are your products connecting with them, what could you improve, etc. You hire this company, they make the calls to these people wherever they are and talk to them in their local language. And then these humans write down what the people said, they survey them, they ask them all these questions, collect that data, and then transmit it back to the telecommunications company for it to then, create solutions around that. This startup has now deployed an AI system within their business that makes the calls, speaks to the people in Kinyarwanda. They're doing Kinyarwanda,
Is the accent
Swahili.
right?
Hey, I don't know if the accent is right, but I guess,
Yeah.
for now it's working. And also these AI systems tend to get better exponentially as things, as things go. So I'm sure if it doesn't have the accent right now, maybe in a year or two, it will actually have it, pat down.
Yeah.
So they've rolled this out within their business. So it calls the people, speaks to them in their local language, collects the information, transcribes the information, translates it into English, and then transmits it back to the telecommunications company. So all of that, again, there's human jobs that have been replaced, but the efficiencies for the business are massive, right? So it's not something that's so far away and, an abstract idea. It's already here. So I think it's something that's very interesting to me because I feel like this is something that we need to be understanding more and more as we move forward. Because especially in a lot of businesses, it's something that can democratize your access, the amount of work that you can do, it can speed up and create efficiencies. So I really feel like this is something that a lot of folks can get a lot of benefit out of. That was my interesting take for the week.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty some take. That's pretty some interesting and wonderful take.
Do you use AI in your day-to-day?
I do actually.
How?
Not day to day, I do because I use ChatGPT sometimes when I want to write some difficult emails. I actually come up with the email and then I throw it sometimes to the ChatGPT. I'm like, if for example I feel like the email that I want to write is going to be a little harsh. I draft the email and then I drop it in ChatGPT and I give it instructions. Make this email firm but kind and polite and professional, And they give me, ChatGPT produces an email and you're like, oh, I like this, I like the tone, You're
like, don't make me sound like not a bad person.
Exactly. And sometimes it's also like you want to write an email that also is both professional and polite and kind and warm. So I sometimes come up with the content and drop it in ChatGPT. Of course, I edit a bit, but yeah, it's quite resourceful. And that's one of the AI items that I use on. No, I don't think it's on day-to-day basis, but I actually do find it quite useful as a tool. And I think we'll see more of it, going forward. I know sometimes at the moment there are a bit of reservations, with
Data privacy, that type of thing.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, and that actually concerns me because you see, if I actually put an email, because when you write an email, you address somebody. It could be dear Adrian or hi Adrian. So when I'm posting it on ChatGPT, I take the names and I take it specific details. For
So you
example,
redact information.
yeah, I redact because I don't know whether ChatGPT is aggregating this data, and
Most likely
one day
it is.
it will profile Adrian as a guy who receives this kind of emails. Like for example, if for example you have ChatGPT getting loaded up with emails of make this email firm and polite, and it's always addressed to Adrian. They can profile you like Adrian is always in trouble, man. Why is he receiving this kind of emails? And you don't want to give a tool that you don't have a control that much of power. So for me, I do think there is also need for careful approach because we could we could be feeding the AI with too much details of our particular snippets of life, and it's aggregating, and one day it profiles me. Maybe I go make an application for a visa, and they're like,
We've seen this guy's name several times.
We've seen so many times, and he's always in trouble. There's still a lot of benefit to it, and benefit that should be properly explored.
I mean, I agree with you. I think the big takeaway for me, or the things that I'd really want people to remember, are really, one is that it's a tool, right? Just like anything else, just like the computer, just like your phone, just like the internet, whatever implement you're using to do a job, it's just a tool, right? So it's only as good or as bad as how you use it and the people using it and the intention that they have, right? So it's one of those things. I think we should be cognizant of the fact that it's technology and it's built or designed to help us, but it could also help someone who has ulterior motives or someone that wants to harm you. So I think that's an ongoing conversation right now. The data privacy thing is a big issue. And I think it's something that people should keep in mind when you're using this type of technology, especially the large language models like ChatGPT, Bard, whatever. So the different offerings from other sort of technology companies. You should essentially act as if you're giving this information away, right? So when you input your information into ChatGPT to ask it a question, keep in mind, or basically you should only put out information that you would be willing for it to have, or for someone out there to have. I think that's the best way to sort of frame it. It's just like when you go to send that email to someone at work, the things people always told me when I was training was, if this email ended up on the front page of the New York Times, are you ready to defend it? Like, is this a good look for you?
Yeah.
Think about it from that perspective. Before you put it in the system, think about where this could end up and whether you're willing for it to go there or not. I think that's a big thing. The second one is understanding that at the end of the day, it's not a person. It doesn't know you. It doesn't know what's going on. It's a predictive model. It's using all of the information that it's been given to predict what you want it to say or what formulation you want it to output. So it doesn't know everything. I think that's a big thing. A lot of people will go in and assume that this thing is a magic box and you input and it gives you all the information. So you should always double check. I think it's sort of best practices. I guess this episode has become best practices on AI, but that's something that I think people should definitely look into and sort of have in mind as they use it. So personally, I use it quite a bit. Now, when I go to search things, like instead of going to Google, I go to ChatGPT and I ask it, because now it's sort of connected to the internet, can go do a basic search and come back. It sort of condenses the information in a more digestible format, as opposed to giving me like 10 links and say, here's probably where the information is, go find it. Though even those companies are starting to do that. Like Google now will have an offering where it summarizes what it's found for you. So in the long run, everything's going to be looking more and more like this. So yeah, I guess that's sort of that's where we're at in terms of AI.
Yeah, indeed. And to our audience, there's actually like we will still have. In fact, we will have a couple of episodes where we're discussing AI, its implications to businesses. Perhaps opportunities. We'll have a bit of chat on it. So this is an introductory conversation. You can expect a lot more going forward, and even other items, other things that impact businesses and how to be prepared for for what is coming in the future, as far as we can understand it ourselves. And we will also invite you for your comments anyway.
Please,
tell us what you think, whether you agree with us, or you want to critique our take. We are more than happy to take that. So Adrian, maybe we could perhaps let our audience know where they can find us, sometime in when
good question.
it followed through, we want to listen to our audience.
Good question.
Content a little more.
I think that's a great question.
Yeah.
Very on point in terms of what we're trying to accomplish in this first episode. So first of all, I hope you are enjoying the content. We hope you like this video or this audio experience, wherever you're experiencing it on your favorite sort of streaming platforms. So please like, subscribe. It takes you 2 seconds maybe, but it really has a huge impact for us, because then we know that we're connecting on a real level, we're offering you value, and that this is something you want to hear more of. So the more feedback you can give us, the better. So the very first way you can do that is by liking, subscribing, commenting. Let us know. Say, Tim, I don't know, the way his watch was shining in the camera. It didn't really hit me.
You like my watch, right?
I do. Honestly, the comment I was going to put is, where do you get your beard oil? But I asked him that question. He just gave me some generic essential oils.
Come on, no, you cannot say that.
Some are blessed, others are not. Things like of that nature. But anyway, I'll put it in the comments. So please engage with us on socials. We are the Full Scale Podcast. We're going to be Full Scale Podcast on all socials, on all the streaming platforms where you find your favorite podcasts. So look for us. We'll be coming to you weekly, basically. So just keep a reminder. We're aiming for Tuesdays. We think Tuesday is a good day. It's after Monday. Monday, everyone is Mondaying. Everyone's saying, Kwani, the weekend, la la la. So we think Tuesday is a good entry point where you're still thinking about things that are topical, thinking about your business, thinking about ways that you can increase value for yourself and the people around you. As opposed to maybe on a Friday where the value you're getting maybe at that point is diminishing returns.
Exactly.
So I think that's basically where you can find us. Did I miss anything?
No, I think actually you addressed it quite well. So we're very excited to send out very good content and useful content to our audience.
Awesome. I just wanted to close on 2 quick ones. One. So we mentioned that we both play golf. Not very well, but we're trying.
Try to play well.
We try to play well. It doesn't always work. Sometimes maybe good. Sometimes
it's goal for you.
So Tim, you played today, right?
Yes, I did.
You played a full 18 at Karen Country Club.
Yes, I did.
So how did that go? Do you mind sharing some scores? And also, I think more importantly, we will also have another segment in the show called Wisdom from the Course. Right? We found in our year playing golf that you learn a lot about yourself, about the game, and about the world through the game of golf. So it may be boring for people who are not interested in the game of golf, but I think the lessons behind it are quite apt.
Exactly.
So do you have any wisdom from the course, perhaps from your day to day? If you want to share your scores, go ahead, but you don't have to.
The challenge about golf is to always try to play better than you did before, to try and get better, a few steps at a time. And it's surprising, really. It's really reflects on even how you do. It's almost like it's the experience of the course you can draw so many lessons on how you do life. Because I'll tell you, number one is that golf is the only sport that you play a ball that is not in motion. If you're playing basketball, you're playing a ball that is moving. So you're anticipating the ball, you're moving, running with the ball. If it's football, the ball is in motion.
Baseball.
Really all
Racket
of them.
Sports, all of that.
And of course, pool is another one that you play the ball that is not in motion.
True.
But
it's different, right?
Yeah, it's different. But the thing is, that tells you that what you're playing is not the ball. You're playing yourself. Exactly. You're playing yourself. And the outcome you get is just, if you're happy with the outcome, look in the mirror, and the person you should congratulate is you. If you're frustrated about the outcome, just stand in the mirror, and the person you will be frustrated with is you.
That's me most of the time after the game. I come home and I'm like, I'm the same guy who hit a drive last time that was so good.
Exactly.
So what is it that I've forgotten now? Like, why is it different this time? I think the lesson in that is, the only person you're ever competing with is yourself.
Exactly.
Right? It's am I better today than I was yesterday? Did I do better than I did the day before? Everyone else is playing their own game and they're all in their own head. Everyone is doing their own drive, their own putt. Everyone is doing their own thing. So it's up to you to focus and block all of that out and focus on your game.
That's a whole thing. And it's even the entire concept about how you do life. You need to look at yourself a lot more in the mirror. And the more you see yourself and the more you see the gaps that you have and more you see areas of growth, as opposed to looking at other people, the more you grow actually, the more you become better, the more you grow into whatever it is, you know, to know that you're ultimately responsible for the outcomes. So if I wanted to play the way Tiger Woods plays, I will need to know that I'm ultimately responsible for that outcome. And I need to put in the work. It's Again, there's no quick wins in golf, by the way.
Unfortunately, not.
There's no cheating your way into victory. You just have to keep working at it. Building your strong points and improving on your weak points. And it's amazing. And I'm sure we will have a lot more conversations around this. It could be a whole.
I know. It could be
a whole season, really. It could be a whole season.
That's why we'll have the segment going forward. Exactly. So that was the wisdom from the course. So thank you, Tim, for that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
We're learning more and more about you and your game and sort of what you're focused on. I'll leave our viewers and listeners with this. Just an experience I had a while back, and it's something that's really motivated me and Tim to really do this. So when we were at the firm working together many years ago, I remember one day a partner and I were called into a meeting. A new potential client had come in. They were a VC stage startup, right? So they're very early stage. They were talking to a VC fund at the time who was interested in investing in them. And so now they were coming to talk to us because, they need to get ready for that process and like, what's it about? What should they have, etc. And so we sat down and we started asking them, okay, where are you registered? And they're like, well, we're kind of registered in Delaware, but we're also kind of registered in Kenya, but also kind of in this other place. So they had subsidiaries all over the place. We said, okay, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Let's say, okay, so who's on the cap table, right? Who owns shares in this business? They say, well, we gave some shares to some friends way back when. We sold some others to some other angel person, but that person transferred them to someone else. But there's also a cap table in Delaware. Then there's a cap table here. So it's sort of all over the place. Even they didn't really fully know who owned all the shares across the whole thing.
Business, how the structures are.
So then we asked them, okay, let's take another step. How about a shareholders agreement? How do you as co-founders and your other shareholders agree on things? And do you have a document that sets out how you make decisions and what can happen? What if someone wants to sell their shares and walk away? What's the process? They didn't have that either. So they were really in a bind. A lot of the legal documentation, the corporate governance that they ought to have been doing, they had not been doing, because as a lot of startups end up doing, they focus on the revenue, building the company and growing, right? So legal is often an afterthought. The problem is you get to a point where now you're looking to grow, you're looking to get funding. And the very first thing people want to check is what's your legal situation? They want to do a due diligence. And now you're in a situation whereby you either have to go back and do all these things, or you have to give, you have to sell the farm, right? You're giving terms that maybe you wouldn't have given if you were in a better position. Your leverage sort of is going, or you don't have as much leverage in that position. So it's a very tough position to find yourself as a startup. And way too often I see this happening. And so for me, a huge reason why I want us to do this is to make sure that that doesn't happen, right? By the time you are approached by an investor who wants to invest in your company as an entrepreneur, we want you to be ready. We want you to be better equipped, better prepared to have those conversations, to get the full value that you deserve for your company without having to worry about all the legal things that you didn't do in the past. So for me, if we could even change one entrepreneur's life in that way, I think we'll have succeeded, and we won't close up shop, but but I feel like that will be a huge success metric for me, sort of going into this. So that's me. That's the only thing I wanted to share.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you on that. And maybe to add that the same experience also we want to have for guys who fund startups, to sort of also have the benefit of understanding the African market better and the East African market better, and perhaps some nuances that that relate to the African market, and how best this can be maneuvered. And again, the truth is, a lot of startups do that because for sort of good reasons. And the good reason is when business people are good at doing business. They're good at having an idea and having a grand vision of what they want to accomplish. But they may not be good at knowing the steps and what route to use and what to avoid. And I think we would be happy if we could bridge that gap, in one way or the other, be able to bridge that gap and be able to contribute to success in one way or the other. Really, that would be quite exciting. Yeah.
Amen.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's it, right?
Yeah, I think that's it for today.
Okay.
Keep on the lookout for a couple more episodes that will be coming your way. And we are very excited to have you here. And please let us know your feedback. Let us have your comments, your thoughts, any comments you have, or any topics you'd actually want us to address. Would be more than excited to address the same, or even guests that you'd want us to invite to our
or if you're
podcast.
viewing or listening and you want to be a guest, let us know. Hey, come through. So I mean, that's us. That's we're the Full Scale Podcast on all socials, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Check out for us there. We'll be coming to you once a week. And thanks so much for joining us. We really enjoyed this. We'll be doing this a lot more often going forward. So thank you, and till the next time.
Bye.
Bye.